Welcome, ladies. This is Empowered Ease, the podcast where we challenge the patriarchy by empowering women to take control of their health, mind, body, and spirit. My name is Jen Olinger. I'm a holistic coach, founder of the Moonflower Collective, and a critical care nurse. Join me each week as I interview healers, health practitioners, and women like you while they share their inspiring stories and their unique approaches to women's health and empowerment. So, like and subscribe so you never miss an episode, and follow along as we learn to step into our power and embrace a life of ease. Hello and welcome to Empowered Ease. My guest today is Lilian de Vries. She is a certified coach who works with unstoppable women who want to find more peace and balance in their lives. She is also a Canadian nurse. Welcome, Lilian.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here, Jenny.
I'm so happy you're here today, too. Lilian and I met through another nonprofit nursing organization and I happened to set up a one on one call and found out Lilian herself is doing a lot of amazing things. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I started way back as a nurse and then moved into working with my parents in restaurant business. My parents are from France, so we had a French restaurant and then did some customer service and management in health in pharmaceuticals. And came right back to coaching, which is because I was looking for an answer from nursing. What else could I do? And I think that that's where a lot of nurses are these days, is what
Mm-hmm.
else can I do? And the common theme that I would hear is, I don't know how to do anything else but nursing. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
you absolutely do. You just haven't discovered it yet. So
Nursing in itself is so many skills.
oh, so many skills, and we think it's only in healthcare and in nursing, but it's definitely not. It's a lot more. So
Yeah.
yeah, I went into I discovered workplace wellness and health promotion. That was the buzzword, wellness. And through that I discovered coaching and decided to get into coaching. And here I was, I remember the first time when I started that first week of coaching intense program that I was in. I was sitting there thinking how much I wanted to help other people. And I walked out of that room that first week thinking, I am so messed up. And I can't help anybody. I need help. And it was the realization and working through my process that I
Yeah.
realized how much I needed to do my work before I could help anybody else. So
Oh
that
my
was really
gosh.
cool. Yeah.
Yes.
It's really
So
wonderful.
tell me, when you were a nurse, where did you work? What kind of nursing did you do?
Yeah, so I worked mostly I worked in Ontario in Canada, and I did oncology nursing. So I had a variety of different, like we did cardiology, we did general medicine, women's health, but mostly it was oncology.
Mhm.
Loved it because I kept seeing, patients coming back every month for their treatments. Got to know them very closely, and I was able to, as I say, have every emotion with my patients. I could walk into my rounds and do French can dancing with them, and the next thing you know, I'd be pulling the curtain and crying with them. So
Mhm.
the I was already in that coaching mode, but I
Mhm.
just needed some more skills and refining to know how to use it properly and on myself first, right?
Right. That's where we all, well, and we're all still, it's a process, right? We never,
Oh, it
never
is.
stop.
It never stops. No.
My first job, in, I guess you would say wellness, was backpacking with troubled teens. It was a therapeutic intervention
Mm,
program. And that was some of the very top therapists out there, rocked my world. I was like, whoa, I have so much work to do myself. But
yes.
luckily I felt like I got free therapy working there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's
but
so true though. It's like we think, and we're such givers. I mean, especially nurses, right? We're such
mhm,
givers and we care for others, and we forget to look at ourselves and care for what we need. Not
mhm,
what we need to do, but what we need.
yeah,
And that's the big question I ask myself every day. When I'm in that whirlwind, it's like, okay, calm down, not what I need to do. What do I need right now?
mhm,
And
mhm,
that pause, which I think is what coaching is really. It's
mhm,
taking a moment with your coach and pausing and saying, okay, let me think, where am I in my life? Am I in the right direction? Am I doing what I want to be doing? Is my heart in a passionate place, or am I just surviving?
Yeah. Is what I used to want and been driving so hard for still what I want now? Am I still aligned with that
Yeah,
purpose?
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure, for sure. And our circumstances change.
Hmm.
So our wants and our desires and what we're exposed to changes. And so therefore, permission to not always know what we want.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's just stopping and revisiting and saying, is this still what I want? Right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool.
I love that. I love that. So tell
Mm.
me, working in workplace wellness, now, did you work in healthcare? Did you work in corporate? What kind of workplace wellness did you do?
I worked in corporate, believe it or not, I worked in pharmaceutical.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Well, I worked yeah in a telecommunication company in my training, and then I went in pharmaceuticals, and yeah, it's very interesting because it's, I thought healthcare was so toxic. And then I went to, pharmaceuticals and other companies, and I thought it's just as toxic. It is,
Hmm.
everybody's trying to survive, and it's like everybody's got this thing to do for the day, or and they've got this tunnel vision. And if anybody comes and cuts off and interrupts them, whether it be a call bell from a patient or from a manager who's calling you or whatever, then we're disrupted and we get all emotional and we start being angry and we don't know how to cope with those emotions, right?
Hmm.
Hence
Yeah.
emotional intelligence, positive intelligence, which I'm trained in. It's all those things about what are we really trying to accomplish? Because
Hmm.
we can have fabulous intentions, but the impact we have is not matching what our
Yeah.
intentions are.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I look, and specifically working with nurses, I look at nursing because they're such caring individuals
Hmm.
and they don't stop to care for themselves.
Yeah, this is something Lily and I have talked about a lot, is like nurses are probably some of the least likely people to reach out and take help for themselves. And at times, I know it over the past, they've been some of the unhealthiest people.
Yep.
And we were trying to figure out why here.
Yeah. So one of the things that has come across my path over the 20 plus years that I've been doing this has been, when I ask nurses, why don't you got an opportunity here to invest in yourself and do good for yourself, to take care of yourself and have a partner on your journey,
Hmm.
right? Because you don't have to do this alone. You don't have to figure it out alone. And
Hmm.
women, men out there as nurses, but I'm talking the typical woman is like she thinks she has to fix it all herself.
Yeah. And women
And
especially need community to be able to validate ourselves.
oh,
We need other people. We
we
need
need
other women.
community. Yeah. And we need the sounding board. That's
Hmm.
why coaching works so powerfully in nursing. And the nurses that I've worked with have walked away like knowing each other for, 20 years working together. And they turn around and go, well, I didn't know you knew that, or I didn't know you thought that way or felt that way. And it was such a wake up call. And and I say, why don't you invest in yourself? And the response that I get often, which just, to this day baffles me, is the system owes me.
Hmm.
They should be paying for anything that I need. They owe me. And I go, you're absolutely right. The system
Hmm.
owes you. First of all,
Hmm.
who's the system? That's not
Yeah.
a person. It's not
Yeah.
somebody with, money in their pocket. Who's the
Yeah.
system? Who's running the system? And how's that working for you, waiting for the system to pay for something for you or to look after yourself?
Yeah.
I look at so many other professionals that I work with in organizations. They all invest in themselves. They don't wait for the system to look after them. So why are nurses doing that?
Hmm.
Why
Yeah.
are they doing that? And I'll tell you, I think part of the reason is nurses are in this survival, this I call it almost like a war zone building, when you think about the hospital. It's almost like this war zone that you're in. And by the time you get to escape for a few hours to go home to your family and, to rest, you're exhausted and you don't
Hmm.
see anything else.
Hmm. And overstimulated, and
Yeah.
yeah, you've
Yeah.
had no time to yourself all day.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But we need to make that happen.
Hmm.
You and I both, Jenny, we've made time for ourselves. We force that time on ourselves, even today.
Yeah, it took me a long time though. It took me some pretty serious health consequences before I opened my eyes and realized, like, if I don't do something about this, I'm going to end up one of these patients. And that's what
Yeah.
was my wake up call, because to me that would be hell if I ended up being a
Yeah.
patient in one of the
Yeah.
ICUs I was working in. But I don't know what people need to hear, but I also wonder, like when I look at nurses, if there's, I mean, I think there's so many factors. Like, I think the people that are drawn to be nurses sometimes are more people pleasers, people who are um,
Mm,
more likely, not all, but I think more likely to neglect themselves in some way. I think there's a high percentage of nurses, like 68% or healthcare workers in general, that have experienced like childhood trauma, neglect, all those things too, which I think only add to the stress and the exhaustion when you get into the work environment that you're not prepared for, that is
yeah,
like 100 miles an hour all the time.
yeah, yeah, very true. And though nursing is changing with the
Mhm.
new generations coming in,
Yes.
they don't have, and again, this is a general statement, right? But they don't have that expectation of themselves or even of their surroundings the way the older nurses do, the more seasoned nurses. And so what we're finding is that young nurses are going in for a year or two and then leaving
Mhm.
because they're not
Yeah.
tolerating this,
Yeah,
right?
under 25 is the highest burnout rate. And if you think about like after them going and schooling and stuff, they have barely, nothing wrong with that, but they have not been in the profession very long at all. That
Yeah,
is that is great. Well, it's scary. It's scary for our future if
it
you.
is. But doesn't that tell you a little bit about our generations, about how much we tolerate in certain generations and other
Mhm.
generations that say, no, this is not happening. This is
I'm
not right.
proud of them, honestly, because I think they're going to
Yeah.
be the ones to change it, because it's going to cause the system to have to do something differently.
Yeah. So I would like to see them get involved in helping change what healthcare can look like,
Oh,
what the profession can look like. And we've got
mhm.
to stop bashing the profession. We've got to rebirth the profession, if you like,
Mhm.
right? And
Yeah.
make it what we think it should be,
You
collective.
know, I would love your advice on how to do that, because I think for a lot of nurses, like for me, I had to at some point separate nursing from healthcare. And I don't think I did
Mm,
that for a long
mm,
time. I was so angry. Like I just wanted to leave. I didn't want to do it anymore. I felt taken advantage of, mostly by the system, sometimes by people, but patients, and but mostly by the system. And I think it was I, till I found a community on LinkedIn, honestly, of other nurses who are
yeah,
trying to make a difference, who are out there talking, who are doing research, who are speaking, that I thought, oh my gosh, there are people out there trying. It's just when I'm bedside, I had no awareness that that was going on, and that
mm,
nursing, I just lost my pride in nursing. And I regained it when I found all these women like, oh, this is why we're nurses.
right, right, right. However, at the same time, the danger in some of these groups is
Mhm.
that we end up being all together with a place to bitch about things.
Yeah. War
What
storying.
we want to find the supportive groups that that statement that you become the 5 people you hang around with the most.
Yeah, I love it.
Well, I want to become that positive person who has hope and inspiration for the profession, who can use the amazing skills and leadership skills that nurses have to recreate things, and if it doesn't mean your energy is in recreating the nursing profession, it can be just recreating your life and helping
Yeah.
others recreate their life. There's
Yeah.
no rule here.
Hmm.
And one of the
Agreed.
things that I started to do was and I'm about to relaunch this. So there's an invitation. I was charging for this, and at this point now I'm saying no, I'm so passionate about it. I've got a group called Join the Movement. Right?
Hmm.
Nurses reclaiming, their life, basically. So it's bringing nurses together on a regular basis to have the positive conversations, to say, what are my challenges, and how have I worked through them to help others who are trying to find a way, and also to even say, I'm having a challenge. Does anybody know how to help me?
Mm.
To be
Yeah.
just in that place of having those conversations, and it could be celebrating things that are non-nursing. It doesn't matter. This
That's
is
so
about the human.
powerful. Because
Yeah.
I come from like a non-healthcare family. So whenever I
Mm,
come home, like I have my coworkers, but there's a level that we keep our coworkers at for the most part. But I came home and no one, even when I tried to come talk to vent,
mm,
it just never felt satisfying, because people just never really understood it. So I
yeah.
can't even imagine how powerful a group of people who get it would be.
Yeah. Yeah. who get it, and from their own perspectives. Because, you know, one of the things I just finished doing is a webinar on worldviews. Where do we get our worldviews from? You know, our
Mm.
experiences, what we've been taught, our beliefs, you know, historically, all those kinds of things add up to our worldviews. And so collectively, if we can share those views without being attached to my view is right, but more
Mhm.
about what are the views, and then I get to choose, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, that's important piece. And you
Mhm.
know, I want to go back a little bit to what you were saying. What got you to the place that you are today is you
Mhm.
had to go through the burnout, etc., right? Well,
Mhm.
I went through that. I wasn't in nursing directly anymore, but I was still involved with nursing, and I was, you know, rediscovering myself and using becoming a coach at that time.
Mhm.
And I remember this Saturday morning when you know, my husband was still in bed, the kids were upstairs, you know, playing, and I was doing the dishes. And I don't know what it is with, you know, doing dishes and the suds and the water, but that's the place where our minds just start thinking and thinking and thinking. And I could, you know, my tears were falling into the sink as I was crying and going, I didn't sign up for this. This is not the life I wanted. And,
Mhm.
you know, breaking down. And I remember calling my husband, calling the kids, and nobody responded. And then down comes the German Shepherd and gives me this kind of look, you know, what's going on? And I took off. I took my purse and I left, and I left for 2, 3 days. And I just drove, and I, you know, listened to every sad song I could listen to on the radio, because I don't know
Mhm.
what it is. It's sort of like, oh, you artist, you get me, you understand me, you know. It was looking for that connection. And I came back and, you know, thought, okay, I can do this. I can, you know, just get back and, you know, be a better person and all this. And that cycle just came right back again, because, you know, you fool yourself, right? You tell yourself
Mhm.
things,
Oh
and
my
you
God.
just don't have the
Put a
support.
Band-Aid on it.
Yeah. So I came back one day, and that was sort of like the breaking point. And I came back, it was Saturday morning, and my husband and my kids were sitting at the table. And I said, I'd like to talk to you guys about something. And I said, I'm taking what I call, at that time, I called it Project Lil. And you know, today I call it Mission Me with my clients, right?
Mhm.
It's that place, and I don't expect anybody to do what I did, but our Mission Me is whatever that means to each person. But my Project Lil was, honey, I'm taking a 6 month sabbatical from being your wife, kids from being your mother, my parents upstairs from being your daughter. I am looking after me. And you know, I had this vision of maybe what it would look like, right?
Mhm.
And I said, I'm moving out of the bedroom, sweetie. Can you imagine my husband's face? Like, are we divorcing? Like,
No.
what's going on? You know, like, I mean, and my kids were sort of like, oh yeah, in one ear out the other, because, you know, here she goes again. Because it's, you know, mothers were always like that, complaining, and then things just go back to normal.
Mhm.
And so I did, I moved out of the bedroom, I moved into a different part of the house. And I remember the biggest lesson I learned was in that first hour, not in the 6 months, in the first hour.
Okay.
And that lesson was, I had full permission to look after me. I
Mhm.
now had nobody to blame.
Mm.
Oh my word. I couldn't blame my husband for my unhappiness. I couldn't blame my kids for my unhappiness. I couldn't blame my parents for my unhappiness. I couldn't blame anybody. It was all me. The only person who could change anything was me.
Mhm.
Oh, that was like, and I sat there and I cried, and I just bawled, and I just thought, well, now what do I do? Because it's all up to me.
Mhm.
That's when I started to apply some of the coaching that I had learned, you know, the discovery of myself. I started to do some meditation, tried to wake up at 4 in the morning and do it like the monks do, you know, that didn't work. Had to find my way, right?
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
had to do my journaling. I had to do my stuff, you know, discovery, which I now developed a program, and I work with people for a year, you know, working with them at their pace, not asking them to leave their spouse or their family. That's not at all what this is about. It's about,
Mhm.
how do you want to make it happen, and how can I support you? And so that's what I did. But I tell you, it was the best thing I ever did. I learned
Now,
so
did you move
much.
back into the bedroom and
Yeah, yeah. And I thought my marriage was over. My marriage is in a great place. It wasn't, you know, here I was trying to fix everybody else because they were the problem. It wasn't them.
it
I had
was
to look at
you?
myself. And when I
Yeah.
changed my attitude, when I, you know, there's this great quote by Wayne Dyer who says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Mhm.
That's exactly what I did. I started to change the way I looked at things, and things
Hmm.
changed.
Oh
My
my God.
husband wasn't the problem. My kids weren't the problem. My parents weren't the problem. Sure, there's issues. I mean, always will be, right?
Yeah.
But I
We're
knew how to
imperfect
work with them.
creatures.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so that's my story. That's
Oh.
really my story that got me to where I am here today. And and I was that unstoppable woman. Like I'd get back up and, you know, fall flat on my face and then get right back up and start over and redo the same things I was doing, still blaming others. Well, and it's hard to look at yourself.
Hmm.
It's simple, but it's hard.
Oh my gosh, it's so hard. It's so
Yeah.
hard. It's scary. It's terrifying at first. It's absolutely terrifying.
Yeah. So that's why we need to do things at the pace of the person who's doing this. I
Agreed.
don't expect anybody to do it the way I did it. And
Yeah, my burnout program is a flex program because I
right.
found like there's just some parts of it that people get held up on. They need more time with, like, because you
Yeah.
don't realize where some of these things are coming from. Sometimes they're very deeply rooted in
Oh,
things that are scary. And
yeah.
so people need time.
Yeah. They do need time. Am I that perfect person today? Absolutely not. I still look at myself sometimes and go, "Oh, I can't believe I was blaming him for this,"
Oh,
or
yeah.
and I've got to look at myself.
Hmm.
That's where the mirror is always, as a matter of fact, the mirror is always there. No joke, the mirror is always here, right? It's like I remind myself, where is this about you? You know?
Yeah. How do you help women find that place? I mean, where do you start with women?
Well, I think the most powerful place that I've started with most people
Hmm.
seems to be the place is about the negative chatter that we have in our brain.
Hmm.
And scientifically and positive intelligence, the studies that have been done around that is that the more we listen to those saboteur voices, the more we feed into it. There's a story basically about the old Cherokee who says to his grandson, you know that one, right? It's
You're the second person to bring it up on this podcast, and I think
uh
it's so beautiful.
yeah,
But say it again, please.
yeah, it's basically the old Cherokee says there's, two wolves that live inside our brain, and it's like they're fighting.
Hmm.
One is the evil wolf, with all the negative things, the ego, the pride, the guilt, the shame, all those kinds of feelings. And then you've got the good wolf, that's, joy, passion, patience,
Love.
curiosity, all those things. And the little boy says, well, who wins? And the Cherokee says, the one you feed.
Hmm. I tell
And
my
so I
husband that
remember
all the
that.
time.
Yeah. So when, you get people who start negative chatter, I just go, I get a choice here. Do I feed that evil wolf or do I go and step into my good wolf?
Yeah. Not that there's not a place to get things out, but then you have
Oh,
to move on. You have to
yeah.
decide what you have control over, what you don't have control over, what you don't
Yeah.
have control over. You got to let go. For me, that was huge in healthcare because there's so much to be frustrated about, so
Sure.
much that's outside our control that you see go wrong and and it hurts because you
Yeah.
care.
Yeah.
And for me, when I could find that detachment, is when I could go back to work. But it took like I had took 3 months off and was having a lot of trouble going back. And now when I go back, I think some of the younger nurses, because I'm like detachment, you have to detach from some things, look at me a
Yeah.
little coldly, but I'm like, no, this is a self preservation, because if you
Yeah.
attach yourself to all those things, you have no control. You're just suffering to suffer.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So in positive intelligence, we talk about the master of all saboteurs is the judge. We judge
Ooh.
ourselves, we
Mm-hmm.
judge others, and we
Mm-hmm.
judge circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
And when I go back to healthcare, that's a circumstance. Like we're judging the system, but
Mm-hmm.
who is the system and where are we responsible for things, right?
Yeah.
That judge is so powerful. And then he takes
Mm-hmm.
on his accomplices. Well, my top accomplice is the controller. If I can't control things, I get in with my other accomplice who avoids. So I step away and avoid. So I got to catch myself on those things. To this very day, I still have to catch myself with stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When I get upset with somebody because they're not doing it my way, then
Mm-hmm.
I go, okay, hang on a second. Is it me right now, or is it my saboteur, the controller who's trying to control everything? And then I
Mm.
go, okay, buddy, time to get away. I don't need you right now. You're just making it worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That sounds powerful. I
talking to
like that.
yourself is okay.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah. So what when you talk about your calls, I thought these, what were they called? Nurses Reclaim Life. Are those daily? Is that what I read?
No,
Are they
so
weekly?
the Nursing Reclaim Your Life is a weekly call.
A weekly call.
That's
Okay.
join the movement.
Okay.
And we're just doing a call to step in and say, where are we? Introduce ourselves. When I started this, I had people from South Africa, from France, from, different places that I've worked in. Because our stuff is our stuff. It doesn't matter where you're
Hmm.
living. And, if you can compare yourself, I mean, when I look at stuff in South Africa, I go, why are they complaining here in Canada or in the States, right? However,
Hmm.
that's our reality, right?
Hmm.
Go back to, our worldviews. That's our reality. And when something shifts from that, it's as disturbing as it is to somebody who's got it worse. And so it's not
Yeah.
about a comparison game. It's about our own perspective on it.
Yeah, I always try to frame things like a child therapist told me this once, and I think about it all the time. Like the worst thing that they've ever experienced is the
Yes.
worst thing they've ever experienced, and I think about that with adults all the time. Like,
Yeah.
it's their perspective, it's their world. So
Yeah.
little things can have a big impact for people.
Well, and the thing I love about that is that that tells me that nobody gets to be wrong,
Hmm.
that we are all right. So if
Hmm.
you say to me, this is how you see the world or what's going on, and I go, that's your truth. And I
Hmm.
can't deny, even though it may not be my truth, I can't deny you your truth. That's your truth. So what do we need to do to help you deal with that perspective so that you're not eaten away by it, right?
Yeah.
How do we
Hmm.
bring that peace to you so that you can feel, okay, I don't have control over this. I'm trying to control everything around me. What do I have control over?
Hmm.
What do I really want? Because half the time when I tell people, so what do you want? And they say to me, well, I don't want to be married to this guy anymore. And I don't want this job. And I go, I am so clear on what you don't want.
What do
What
you
do you
want?
want? I don't know. Okay.
Ugh. Yeah, that's
Okay.
the real issue, huh? I
That's
found that in burnout, my burnout program sometimes. Some people, it's not about like leaving the profession either. Like they love what they do. They just need to
sure.
find a new way to approach it
Yeah.
to make it fit their life because what
Yeah.
the way they've been doing it is not working.
Right. And part of that is also, dealing with the negative people around you. So I
Yeah,
remember a
boundaries.
time when the environment was not good and I was so sick of being around these people. And I brought in bagels and cream cheese for the whole, not just our department, but the department around us as well. And one guy comes up to me and he says, why did you bring bagels and cream cheese? And I said, actually, because I'm so tired of the negativity. I just wanted to do something good. And probably today with nutrition, it wouldn't be bagels and cream cheese, but at that point it was.
Yeah.
But I brought it in and he said, well, it's going to take a hell of a lot more than bagels and cream cheese to change this place. And I went, well, it's a good start. But
Yeah.
if that's not for you, that's fine. The end of
Yeah.
the day, he came up to me and he said, thank you. It really did make a difference. And I went, well, I'm glad you saw it. And that's it. It's not a judgment. That's where he was.
Hmm.
And do it anyway.
Hmm.
As much as you might have resistance around you, do it anyway. Because people will eventually say, yeah, you know what? Maybe this isn't so bad.
So tell me what are the ways that you work with women? What are ways that women can find you, work with you? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll give you a link to my calendar, and I think that's the best way so somebody can reach out and have a conversation with me to see where they're at. I mean,
Hmm.
right? We're just not everybody's in the same place, and maybe it's not coaching that you need. Maybe it's a different kind of support that you need, or
Hmm.
other things that need to happen first, right?
Yeah.
So that would be the first thing to do is to have a conversation. And I'm just rebuilding my website right now, so um, there'll be more things around that, and I'll be able to let people know. However, in that frame of mind, when people approach me, then I say, okay, so what are the struggles that you see, and where would you like to be? And
Hmm.
it's really interesting because I worked with somebody who's 20 years old just the other day, and he said to me, how do I know when I got there, when I've arrived? And I love that question because it's sort of like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to work with you as a coach for a year. You're going to be, and by the way, I do VIP coaching. So which means that you don't only get regular calls with me, but if there's something you're struggling with in between, I'm a text away, I'm an email away, and maybe even a phone call away at that point. Right.
Yeah.
So having somebody by your side that you can count on at the time you need it, not just on your regular meetings,
Mm-hmm.
is important. So I said to this guy, well, what's the it that would have you know you're there? Like, what does that look like? Right? So, well, I don't know, success. I go, well, what is success?
Yeah.
Well, money and whatever. And I said, well, how much money? All these things, like you really have to break it down to know. And I said, and so I take the wheel of life,
Mm-hmm.
for some who don't know, you've got your wheel divided into different pieces, and you've got, your career, your health, your finances, etc., right? And you score it from 0 to 10. 0 being it's the worst it could be, 10 being it's the best it could be. And what's really interesting, even for myself, is that, you might be an 8 and you say, well, here's a 10. And working with me, we might move to a 9 or a 10 or whatever. But when you redo the wheel, you might be back at a 7 or an 8. And you think, but I've moved forward. Why am I at a 7 and 8? Because your 10 has now changed.
Mm-hmm.
You've expanded what you really want because you're clearer on it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's really where you arrive. As I said to this young man, I said, where you arrive is where you're arriving, where you're heading right now. But you're always changing where you're going and
Mm-hmm.
what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
It's like that
All,
quote, like aim for the moon, you land upon the stars.
no,
Like,
I don't know that quote. Yeah,
yeah, it's like
yeah, that's
if
really
you
cool.
reach if you're aiming for the moon, like you don't have to worry because if you miss, you still land upon the stars. Like,
Exactly, exactly. And half the time it's not where you're going anyway.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
It's always changing. It's always evolving because you're evolving. You're showing up every day as a different person, a new perspective, new way of seeing things, and you test it. You test these tools that we talk about and work on, and then you say, yeah, I like that, but here's how it worked with so and so, but maybe, with this person it didn't work as well. What do I need to do here? So having that partner to talk things about and how to move forward with things, so precious. I mean, I still work with a coach. I've been
Mhm.
doing this for 25 years now. I still work with my coach, you
I do
know?
too. I have a couple.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the good thing about being a coach is you do have a couple. You have the formal one that you pay, and the other ones that just, you can lean on every now and then. That's
Yeah,
the
for
coach.
sure. Yeah.
So true. So true. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what helped me through my burnout. Honestly, I went through therapy. I saw tons of doctors, and it was working with coaches one on one.
Mm,
It helped me heal. It helped me figure out exactly get to the root
yeah.
of it. It was
Yeah.
much more impact. Not that I didn't get things out of therapy because I did, and I'm glad I went. And I think they actually go hand in hand very well because you don't always know what you're going to come up against in coaching. I usually advise my clients to at least have a therapist at some point because I really do think some of that stuff you don't expect to
Yeah.
sometimes, and you need
Yeah.
a little help sorting it out.
Yeah. Yeah. So sometimes clients do work with therapists and coach at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they really have to go with therapy first or vice versa, whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, you're absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love about that kind of brings me to where I work with balance with women, we're never balanced in all areas. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
that's the false information that we have. At least that's my truth for now. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the place of when I'm working my coach, maybe I'm developing my business and how I'm getting in the way of my business. Then I
Mm-hmm.
might be working on my relationship and where I might be getting in the way of my relationship. So
Mm-hmm.
it's all intertwined, but it's never everything at once,
Mm-hmm.
you
I'm
know?
going to tell you another quote I love now. You're bringing all the quotes out of me today, but there's one called, it says, like, you can have everything you want, but just not at once.
Yes. Yes. I love that. It's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we define, well, what do you want? I don't know.
Prioritizing helps
Yeah.
that game a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And things happen in life,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't
Mm-hmm.
happen to us. They happen for us. So
Mm-hmm.
stopping and pausing and saying, why is this happening? Without judgment, because remember that master judge there can come in and judge everything. It's more
Mm-hmm.
about, wonder why this is happening and where is it guiding me to, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
That
Uh,
resiliency mindset, so powerful.
yeah. Yeah. Well, it's the pause and asking the questions and waiting for the answer.
Mm-hmm.
We don't, I mean, the answers are all within us, but sometimes we got to dig a little deeper for them or
Mm-hmm.
even more spatial, right?
Mm-hmm.
And ask
Mm-hmm.
the question and wait for the answer. without expecting the answer, right? To be a certain thing.
Being open to what comes, what's there.
Yeah. Curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
It's so cool to be curious and say, whoa, you know, and the tests that we have in life. I remember at one point when I was doing my coaching and my family said to me, this is just a hobby. This is not a job. Because, you're struggling at the beginning, trying to bring
Mm-hmm.
clients in and stuff like that at the very beginning of a business. And I remember saying, don't you ever dare take away what I'm passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have that right.
Mm-hmm.
I get to make the decisions of what's a hobby or what's a job for me, but don't
Mm-hmm.
ever take that away from me. And,
That was probably their fear of seeing you fail and get hurt anyway. You know what I mean? That was
right.
them putting their fear on you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's I remember one of my coaches saying to me once, the thing I love about you, Lilian, is your persistence. It doesn't matter how many times you fall and fail, you get back up and you just keep going. All based on my passion. Like
Which
I
is a
believe,
key to success, Lilian.
oh,
That's why you are as awesome as you are.
yeah, yeah, well, but it is the key to success is sticking with what you know and what you know where your heart is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the check-in for nurses is to see, are you in the right place?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you might not be in the right profession, but you might still be a nurse, but not in the right place.
Mm-hmm. Or you just have to approach it differently. I feel like that's a small percentage, but those people are out there too. Or you know what? Like you wanted to do this so bad, you did it, and now maybe it doesn't fit anymore. You know,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
else have you wanted to do? What
yeah.
other there's so much out there.
Well, and it takes me to a quote that I've actually created along the way, and it's the difference between happiness and joy. Happiness is um, is circumstantial. I'll be happy when I retire. I'll be happy when I'm married. I'll be happy when I have that white picket fence house. I'll be happy when I have 2.5 kids, right? The standards of
External. Yeah.
everything is I'll be happy when. You know,
Okay.
I'd say to my husband at one point, he got something, and I'd say, are you happy you got the new computer? And he'd say, well, I'll be happy when it's set up and it's running, and I'm going like, seriously, can't you be happy right now? And it's all circumstantial. And I say,
Mm-hmm.
whereas joy is an attitude that defies all circumstances. So regardless of how much you say nasty things to me, I had somebody say something nasty to me this morning, not work
Mm-hmm.
related, and I just said, wow, it's, like, what do you need to vent? Like, and that comes from another quote that says, what's hurting you so much that you feel the need to hurt me?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to look at it as that my ego is being hurt, but more about what's going on over there that you feel so hurt that you feel like you need to do that to me. Right. And I go, maybe it's happening for me. That's an opportunity for me to help somebody who is in real need.
Mm-hmm.
So I choose joy.
I
I
love
choose
that.
joy.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Why
Beautiful
not?
perspective.
Yeah. It's a choice. It's an
I did
attitude.
a free workshop earlier this week on like what self-love, but it was, what is really self-love? Self-love is unconditional self-acceptance, and it's not all those other things we think it is.
Yeah.
It's looking at ourselves, it's accepting the good, bad, the ugly, and taking challenges on, like
Yeah.
appreciating the struggle, finding the good in it. And
Yeah.
I just think this is a beautiful thing to do this week of Valentine's Day with you. It's right on
Right.
point.
Right. And so interesting you say that because I was coaching somebody this week and her thing was, that she wanted to lose weight and she wanted to be more fit and stuff like that. Nothing wrong with that.
No.
That's, moving towards something. But I said, and what if your weight never changes? And what if your arthritis or whatever is there and will hold you back? What will it take for you to accept that you are perfect the way you are?
Mm-hmm.
Still with a desire to get better, nothing wrong with that.
No.
But can you love yourself the way you are? Otherwise, it's that judge coming in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And she was like, wow. Yeah. So she's working on that. So I have
Beautiful.
exercises, where people look in the mirror and they ask themselves each, questions in the morning that, you know, we, I've taken from Lisa Nichols, who's a coach, and she's done this mirror exercise all her life. And it's really about looking in the mirror and saying 7 times, I'm proud of you, Lily, and I'm proud of you for whatever. And just Don't recite it, like just whatever comes up. And then I forgive you for.
Mm,
And it could be things like, I forgive you for stealing, Sammy's chocolate in grade 2, It could be anything from way back because of those memories, I didn't
mm-hmm.
know Sammy or have any chocolates, but that's an example.
Yeah.
And then the third one is, Lilian, I commit to, and it could just be, I commit to showing up to this mirror tomorrow morning. Lilian, I commit to hugging myself 3 times today.
Mm,
Like, whatever it is, but really looking in your own eyes and your soul. And it is very emotional, but
mm-hmm.
those are very powerful exercises.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. And when you talk about the coaching, it's like I've had a client that I introduced that exercise to a year ago. And just last week, she did it once and she said it was really hard. And just last week, she's in a different place. And that was back to where we're going back to. So it's okay that she didn't do it for a year.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a judgment, right? It's not a bad thing. Was she ready? She tried, she faced, she had struggles. We talked about that. We worked on other things, and then now we're revisiting it.
Mm-hmm.
Next week, I'm meeting with her. We'll see how it went.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I remember the first time someone said to me, and now this is like second nature, right? But where in your body do you feel that emotion? And
Yes.
I
Like,
thought they were
huh?
crazy. I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And then even trying to consider that was just seemed out of this world. And now I am so aware of the physical sensations when I'm overwhelmed with any emotion. It's the first place my awareness goes. But it was so, I couldn't even fathom
It's
that that was
foreign.
real when someone
Yeah.
first said it to me. I'm like,
Yeah.
you are crazy.
Yeah. 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 And it takes time to be able to feel that.
Oh my gosh. I feel like it took me years,
Yeah.
years.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that's often I remember, doing leadership coaching circles in a hospital once with these big leaders. And with the person in the learning and development area, I said, well, I could do this kind of healing circle in the very formal indigenous way, or we could do it, in a safe place for leaders who've never experienced anything like this. She goes, let's go for it. So I went, okay, I've got my partner in this. And I remember bringing in the candle in the center, the blanket and the drums and I started by singing an indigenous little song, and the faces of these leaders at that point, I'd been coaching for a while, but they just all went, I'm ready to walk out of here. Like, this is weird. Like,
They were so uncomfortable.
they were so uncomfortable. So we talked about that for the time that we were there. But I turned around to the learning development person. I said, "Oh my God, did we ever fail here?" And I said, she goes, "No, it gave us information about
Mm-hmm.
where they're at." So now I know I need to meet people. It took me that big failure to, a failure that's a learning failure, if you like, to understand that you have to meet people where they're ready,
Yeah.
right?
Well, and you never know. You never know what happened to those people later in their life, or they may reference that experience or even have referenced it later in the day and not realize the impact it
You're
had on
absolutely
them.
right. You're absolutely right. I'm
So,
still in touch with one of the leaders that who became a friend eventually, and she still thinks I'm weird in that way. But she says, she gets things a little bit more like now the touchy-feely, right?
yeah.
So that's typical. Like, this particular person was even somebody, when I first met her, I said I knew based on the questions that we needed to work on her marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, she was a leader. Boom, boom. We worked for a year together, and it was all corporate business, all that kind of stuff, which was fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was late one day and I left her with an assignment. I said, work on this while, till I get there. I'm just a few minutes late. She was working on the blackboard and she said, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to talk about my marriage. And, then she got divorced. I coached her through divorce, coached her through dating, and then she got remarried and so been through all that journey with her. But again, like I say, people are only ready for what they're ready for in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Even though as a coach, sometimes I can see it, it's okay. No judgment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. 100%. I
Yeah.
find when it's funny you say that about like the relationship with our husband, because in my program, I like a lot of people, it's not necessarily, it's sometimes it's their personal relationship with their spouse or loved one, but a lot of times it's family relationships, other dynamics in their family where they have poor
Yes.
boundaries, where they feel exhausted and overcommitted and resentful. And I don't have those in my own personal family as much. We have good boundaries from therapy, probably very young, but I'm like, oh my gosh, I had no idea how much big of a role that plays in so many people's lives. Just a
Yeah.
simple thing of being able to speak those boundaries with
Yeah.
love to their loved ones. It's so
Right.
hard.
It is. And what and love can blind.
Mm-hmm.
So I've
Oh
got
gosh, yes.
I've got a client who's type A personality, never get married, and people who are in my way, I eliminate them. This is her attitude, right? She's a very, very strong-minded individual.
Mm-hmm.
And then she gets engaged, and this guy is just like, she has no boundaries with him. He lets her, he basically dictates what needs to be done, and even though she's not happy about it, she does it. And I'm like, whoa, night and day, this person. Like, what, how are you going to tolerate this 20 years down the road when you're with this individual?
Mm-hmm.
Because in your natural world, you don't tolerate that.
Mm-hmm.
What makes you think that this is okay right now?
Mm-hmm. But she's just so blinded by having a need met that he's meeting in some
Yeah.
way.
And this is where it's my job as the coach to not judge it,
Mm-hmm.
but to just shine a light on it and
Mm-hmm.
let the client come up to their own revelations when they're ready.
Mm-hmm. It's her process.
Right. It's her process. Absolutely. Absolutely. And then when you have a coaching conversation like that, and then you at the end you say, what are you walking away with? Like, what did you learn about yourself in this conversation? And she was like, oh yeah, man, I've got a lot of issues still. I didn't realize we're still there. And I went, okay, so let's talk about what you want to do with that next call.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But she came to that revelation. It's not me telling her.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah,
me
having a
telling
safe
her,
space is really powerful for people to be
mm,
able to come without judgment, because there's a lot of people that don't have that either, or don't think they have that. You know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Or to practice that muscle.
Yeah, that's one of the things what I work with too. We work on like developing relationships that are already in your life sometimes to support you better, but that may be there that you just, haven't put the energy or trusted enough to let
Right.
in.
Well, even it's funny you talk about relationship, because one of the trainings that I have in coaching is the it started off with organizational relationship systems coaching. Okay, it's all about systems. But in that we learn about, the relationships, what a relationship is. Many people do not understand relationships. They
Mm-hmm.
think a relationship is, it's me, it's you, and no, you are you. The other person is the other person. That's their own relationship with self. And then the relationship you developed is like, what do I want from this relationship? What can I give to this relationship? We know, what are the boundaries I set? What am I, and with those rules, or what we've co-created together in this relationship, can we be in this kind of a relationship? And whether it's romantic or whether it's business, doesn't matter. It's
Mm-hmm.
all the same thing. It's a third entity.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to be able to define it as a third entity, because too many people hold on to the other person to make them happy,
Mm.
right?
Yes.
You
You're
want,
speaking to me. I started my business with like a best friend of like 26 years, and we lost our friendship over it. And now that it's over, I realize exactly why. I know exactly why. It's for the best. It's no hard feelings. It was a personality ways we made up for each other and protected each other for years
mm,
that never would have been successful as business owners together.
uh,
And it was just being blinded by the history of that relationship.
yeah,
So interesting you say that, because I'm like,
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes, I did.
yeah. And when I say in a relationship, what's the percentage each person gives into let's talk about an intimate relationship, okay?
Mhm.
What's the percentage that we give into a relationship?
Oh, it depends on the day.
Yeah, but actually, many people say 50-50, and you
Mhm.
need to give your 50-50, right? It's actually
Mhm.
100%. You
Mhm.
give 100% of who you are. My 100% today may be better than yesterday,
Mhm.
or not as good as yesterday, but I'm giving you 100% of what I've got.
Mhm.
It's always 100%. So there's this exercise. Actually, I did some leadership training in Spain, where, we're in a tree, we're walking on a rope, and my partner's gone up her tree and I've gone up mine. And then we're holding this stick. And so we have to walk along this rope, got nothing to hold on to except this stick in between us. And the thing is, if I don't lean in 100% and she doesn't lean in 100%, we're going to fall. But the thing is, if I'm afraid to lean in because I might fall, she's going to fall. We're going to fall. We have to lean in 100%. So I have people do that standing up where they're, holding hands like this together and put their feet out longer and longer so that they're leaning in and they're going, well, no, you're bigger than me and I'm going to fall. Doesn't matter. Give 100% of what you've got and we will never fall.
Mm.
Same
That's
thing with
beautiful.
ourselves, individuals. 100% of what I can for today for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Gosh, so much beautiful stuff, Lily.
Rich conversation here.
Yes. Well, let's see here. I think we're getting there on time. So there's one thing I ask everybody that I'd like to ask you, just like when times are hard for you and you're really struggling, what is your go-to self-care that for you is like your reset?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I've redefined it more recently. And it's really that piece of I go to that place of saying, not what I need to do, but what do I need right now?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that need, I'm going to say I've stole this from men because men go, for the longest time, I said they nap. And what's wrong with men? Why can't they stay up all day? Why do they have to nap? They actually have a very cool secret. That napping, whether I sleep or not, given myself permission to lie down and put my timer on or whatever, I just go, I've really given myself what my body needed in that moment. And it's either time to sleep, which sometimes it is, or sometimes it's just time to do my breathing exercises.
Mm-hmm.
Or I do hip exercises from this woman who's called the Workout Witch. And that's where trauma is held in our hips.
Yeah, I follow her.
Yeah. Yeah. So doing some hip exercises, doing some meditation of breathing, just being in pause, stopping is the healthiest thing one can do for oneself.
I love that.
Yeah.
Great.
So that's my secret to you is just stop.
Stop and pause and don't judge yourself for it. Cause that's, I think a lot of people, the resting, they judge themselves while they're resting. It's not restful. Just gotta.
Well, because you know why? Because they don't have anything to focus on. So in what we call positive intelligence reps, we call these PQ reps, we call them.
Mm-hmm.
You're actually focused on either breathing or tactile or doing something with the senses. And when you do that, you have something to focus on. And every time your mind wanders, you just bring it right back to what you're focusing on. Just okay. It's just a practice.
A trick.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. I was reading like that this positive intelligence is based in neuroscience, which I think is so cool because there's so much cool stuff coming out of from like neuroscience research. So
oh, absolutely. When you do these PQ reps on a regular basis, like for 6 to 8 weeks, you can actually see in an MRI that the gray matter in your positive thinking brain increases and the gray matter in your negative, where the saboteurs live, decreases.
really?
So there's actually scientific proof that this stuff works. And it works. I'm telling you, it works.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, Miss Lilian, what else do you want to leave us with today?
Oh, I'm just thrilled to have that conversation with you, Jenny. I think you're such a sweetheart. You got an open heart. You're from the first time I met you, and we met in Nurses Transforming Healthcare, which is a group, if you guys don't know, nursestransforminghealthcare.org. Something to look into. I mean, what can I say other than you don't have to commit to anything by reaching out to either Jenny or myself and saying, I just need to talk. Can you listen to me? And then you get to choose. I never force anybody to go join programs or do anything. I say, you get to choose what's next for you. So don't be afraid to pick up the phone or book time with someone. Get what you need during that time and then choose. You get to choose. And if anybody tries to sell you something so hard and pushy, that's because it's about them. It's not about you.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah.
Beautiful advice. And there's so much free resources out there. Lilian's weekly group is amazing for nurses. So
yeah. So I'll put the link to both those things, and we'll and go from there.
Yes.
All right.
Well, it's been a
So
pleasure.
excited.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you, Jenny. You take care.
You
Bye,
too.
everybody.
Bye.